Hello guys, this is Evan Ballinger, and after a semester of work, I've successfully audited Yellow's Airline region. This company had many near misses, many first aids, and recordables that I broke down and brought into a lot of information that I will be showing y'all throughout my presentation today to show y'all the lacking parts of the management within the company and also some of the successes within Yellow's Airline region. Yellow's Airline region is what I audited. It is in Miami, Florida, and they are an airplane company with 200 employees. To start off with some basic facts, the company I audited was in Miami, Florida, Yellow Airlines region, and the company had 300 near misses in the annual. Also to go with this, the company had 4 first aids and 6 recordables within the annual. And understanding some of these numbers behind the company and looking at the OSHA 300 and 300 forms, we will now investigate some of the graphs that take a deeper dive within the numbers and statistics of our company. Our first chart that I made that we will be looking at in our Yellow Airline region audit is our group versus non-group member graph, which is converted into a pie chart. Something to note right away is our company was composed and chosen and hand chose 5 safety people to be group members, and the other 195 employees were non-group members. Looking at these percentages, 21% of the 300 near misses from the annual were from group members, and 79% of the 300 near misses from the annual were from non-group members. When you convert these percentages into whole numbers of the 300 near misses, 237 near misses were caused by the non-group members, and 63 near misses were caused by the group members. And something to note about this is when you look at the individual person and you calculate how many near misses each individual person has, when we make this statistic number, obviously it's a rough number, but it shows that each group member, which is composed of 5 people and they had 21% of the near misses, each one of them combined up to 12.6 near misses. Each one of them had that statistically. And for the non-group members, each member had 1.21 near misses throughout the annual. So something staggering that we can see is that the group members, who are supposed to be the safer people and they're more expertise and knowledgeable people, they actually cause more near misses than what the non-group members did statistically. And obviously that's one of the trends we see, and that can also be one of the peaks we see, as long as one of the valleys. And obviously that's a huge problem as well, because the people, the ones who are supposed to be safety, who are hand chosen for the safety team, they were obviously not the safer ones, and that needs to be addressed within this company, seeing how they are a part of the safety group member team. And what we can see from this group, or from this graph overall, is we can see that there is just a lot of near misses that were caused. And when you think that more of them would be caused by the non-group member, statistically it actually shows that each individual group member from the safety group caused more near misses. So that's something big to take away from this graph. It makes you lead and wonder if maybe there was some bias. There was some bias in choosing who should be on the safety team rather than who really deserved to be on the safety team, due to the near misses that we statistically see for each person. Graph that we will be looking at is our day of the week graph, where I also got from our OSHA 300 logs. This graph is a bar graph, and we can see the annual accidents totaled by the week. So there were 43 near misses that happened throughout the annual on Monday, 37 on Tuesdays, 26 on Wednesdays, 41 on Thursdays, 52 on Fridays, 66 on Saturdays, and 35 on Sundays. A trend that we can see within this graph is that on the weekends, obviously, there was a lot more near misses, especially on a Saturday. And that could be maybe because employers did not want to come to work, and they were not staying attentive and staying as safe as they possibly could. And obviously that's where we see many of the peaks as well, just as we can note on Friday and Saturday, when people are just ready to get off work and do not want to work any longer, they tend to not be as attentive and can cause more near misses and mistakes, and more injuries can happen as well. There are valleys on days like Wednesday, Tuesday, and Thursday because employees are in the middle of the week and they're not focusing on getting off because they realize they still have several more days of work before they're going to get off. So they're more focused on their work rather than what they're going to do when they're getting off of work. And that's kind of some of the problems we see as well, being that employees may be more committed to outside work life rather than in work life. And don't get me wrong, outside work life is still very important and vital, but it's also very important that we keep our employees safe, and when they are doing a task that may be dangerous, that they are staying attentive and they're not thinking about all the other things wandering within their heads. And overall, what this graph means, more so to me, and obviously I think we can see statistically, as employers and employees are not staying attentive, and even on the days when they really should, they're letting their minds get to them, which is causing a lot more near misses the closer they get to the weekend and the closer they get to the days off. Our third graph that we will be looking at is our monthly tracking graph, and obviously this is a bar graph as well. This graph shows how many near misses were in each month of the annual. So there's 12 months here, and each one of them has a different amount of near misses. On January, we can see we had 40 near misses, February 30, March 30, April 20, May 15, June 15, and something really crazy that we see is in July, we did not have a single near miss, which is odd because the company was not out of business, because we did have recordables and first aids within July. So we will take a deeper look of that later on within our PowerPoint, but just thought I'd point that out for now. August, we have 15 near misses. September, we have 21. October, we have 20. November, we have 30. In December, of course, we have 64 near misses. A trend we can see in this graph is kind of like the last graph on like Fridays and Saturdays. We can see in January and also in December, on months where people are getting ready to go off for Christmas break, and the month where people are coming back from Christmas break and New Year's and doing a lot of partying, we can see that employers and employees were not as attentive and not focused on their job. They were just ready to get off, or they were not ready to come back and start working again, which shows with the increased amount of near misses we see in the months of January and December, with January being 10 higher than any other one, and December being over 24 higher than any of the other ones. That is something important to note. And obviously our peaks are in January and December. Some of the valleys we see are obviously in July having 0 near misses, but that could be a mistake that we could address later. And obviously we see some of our valleys in May, June, and August. These months being when there's not very many breaks and people are more focused on work because there's not many breaks coming up and there's not really much to look forward to and their minds to wander off to. Some of the problems we see in this graph are obviously where there were a lot more near misses in December and January because employees were not staying attentive, and also another one of the major problems being July not having any near misses, which sounds like a good thing, but there's obviously something wrong here, understanding that we did have first aids and recordables. And what does this graph mean? I think this graph shows that lots of near misses did happen throughout our months, but I don't think all of the near misses were calculated, and that the company only wanted to keep it at 300 near misses so they didn't have to talk about July either and keep going over on money with near misses. And I think it's also important to note about this graph that employers were not staying attentive when they had time off, and they were more focused on what they're going to do outside rather than inside working on their job. Our fourth graph that we will be looking at is the type of incident with our HIRA graph, which is in a bar graph form as well, that is multicolored. HIRA, Hazard Identification Risk Assessment, shows us some of the shows us each individual near miss, but also shows the severity of each near miss, with green being low, being negligible, yellows being tolerable near misses, and of course reds being intolerable near misses. As we can see in this graph, we see peaks and trends within the graph that there is a lot of personal protective equipment near misses that happen throughout our annual, and a lot of ergonomics as well, and falling parts. And something important to note is there is a peak within our falling parts and also our exposure to temperature, seeing 20 intolerable near misses and 14 intolerable near misses in our exposure to temp. This is uncalled for. Some of the valleys we can see, of course, within our bloodborne, our excavation, and also our fire. Obviously, these near misses not being so much of, and this may be called a valley, but it actually is a good thing that we do not see that many near misses over in this section. Some of the problem areas obviously being the falling parts and exposure to temperature being 20, 14, and also in our tools and equipment use having 12 intolerable near misses. These intolerable near misses can be life-threatening or can cause serious harm or disease to each individual, and these need to be taken care of. And those are some huge problems within our graph. And overall, there's lots of meanings to this graph. You can break this down in many different ways, and there's lots of different ways we can look at it, but it's obviously a good thing to see within our emergency prep and our burns and insects and dust that we don't have intolerable near misses. And overall, with 300 near misses, we don't have too many intolerables, but it is more than what we would like to have, and we would like to get this down. So looking at this graph, we can see that there are some mistakes, but there are areas for improvement as well. And PPE and ergonomics are a huge part that we should start addressing more often, which will allow the company to overall keep their near misses down a little bit, which can also help with cost and risk associated with workers. Fifth graph that we will be looking at is the time of day graph, and this is a line graph. This graph shows how many near misses throughout our annual happened at what time of the day. This graph has a lot of information that we can break down in several different parts. Some of the trends we can see are at 5 p.m. and at 6 p.m. and also as well at 3 p.m. we can see a lot more near misses than what we see at times like 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. This goes to show that there are a lot of people that are working first shift. We can also see that people are just ready to get off of work. That obviously kind of going back to what we saw in the weekly and the monthly graphs, that people are just ready to get off work and their minds are not wondering, their minds are wondering and they are not focused on their job because they are about to get off of work and get to go home, maybe see their family, go do something fun, but they need to finish staying working on their job so they can stay safe and not cause near misses, accidents, and injuries. Obviously, some of the peaks being there, some of the valleys being within the 4 a.m., the 2 a.m., the 3 a.m. range. Obviously, this could be on third shift. There might not be as many employees or employers working then, but it also goes to show within the middle of a shift that people aren't really focused on the outside events, but more so their job because they're in the middle of their shift. They're not about to get off. They've been there a while, so their mind's not going somewhere else. Some of the problems we obviously see are at the 5 p.m., 4 p.m., and 3 p.m. where workers and employees are not staying attentive, therefore causing more near misses because their minds are wandering. And this section right here is something we really need to take care of because this is uncalled for within our company of 200 people. And overall, I think this graph just shows to go kind of the lack of management and the lack of care that is within our company, because over and over we have seen throughout these graphs that the attention span and the ability to retain and stay safe, especially when it's getting ready to go home, employees are not properly being aware of that, and are not taking that into question. They are just staying unsafe and worrying more about their outside problems rather than what they should do to stay safe on the job. And overall, it is affecting the safety within our company. Our sixth graph that we will be looking at is our recordables, first aids, and near misses graph. This is a 3D bar graph, and it shows the cumulated annual near misses, recordables, and first aids. As we've already talked about the near misses that we can see in each month, we also have our first aids, where we have one first aid in May, one in June, one in July, and one in August. For our recordables, on the other hand, we have one accident in May, one in June, two in July, and something to take note is we had no near misses in July, and we also had one in August and one in September, which adds up to a total of 6 recordables and 4 first aids, and obviously 300 near misses. Some of the trends we see within this graph are obviously on our near misses when employers are getting ready to get off work and when they're just coming back to work after being off for long periods of time. They are not as attentive and they are not paying attention to their job as much. But also something interesting to note is in the middle of the year months where employees are not about to get off of their job, more recordables and more first aids happen, which means more severe injuries are happening. And this kind of goes against what we see within the trends of our near misses, because in those months on the near misses, it shows that employees are being more patient, they're listening better, and they are working safer. But it does not show that on the first aids and recordables. Obviously, our peaks being in January and December, and we can take note that there's another peak within July with 2 recordables and 1 first aid. Some of the valleys being also in July for our near misses because there's none. Also in June and May and August only having 15, but we still do see first aids and recordables there. And obviously some of the problems being that we're seeing a lot of near misses in December and January and not any in July. Those being some of the problems we see. And overall, what does this graph mean? I think when we look at this graph, we can see that there needs to be more attentiveness that we have stressed about already. And there also the program needs to stay safer within the summer months, as we can see lots of recordables and first aids happening, which can be costly and detrimental to not only the company, but also the person that this recordable or first aid is associated with. So there is problems within this graph, but there is also good things that we can take account of and move forward being safer. In our 7th and final graph, we will be talking about and looking at our OIR graph. This is another line graph as well, and OIR stands for OSHA incident rate. This adds up your amount of recordables, the times worked that continue adding up, and shows you how much recordables you're having throughout the annual. As we can see, since we did not have any recordables in January, February, March, or April, our OIR is at 0. But when we go up to May, we end up having 1 recordable, which boosts our OIR to 1.24. Moving forward, going to June, we have another recordable, which boosts our OIR, or our OSHA incident rate, to 2. And in July, we see a huge movement with having 2 recordables pushing our OSHA incident rate all the way to 3.47, and August being 3.72 with another recordable, and September being 4 with another recordable. Being 4 and 4 is really high. And then we start to see the trend go back down because we stop having recordables in October, November, and December, where it goes to 3.63, 3.26, and all the way back down to 3. So some of the trends we see here are in the summer months. We see a lot of recordables, which boost our OIR to numbers that we do not want to see. Some of the valleys we see are obviously in the earlier months, in January, February, March, and April, where we do not have a recordable, which is a very good thing. And the problem areas are certainly within the summer, when, especially in July, when we have 2 recordables, which boost our OIR to a number that should not be seen. And overall, this graph just shows, it kind of looks a little differently than the other graphs, showing attentiveness within the earlier months, but within the summer, people are becoming more susceptible to injuries that are causing a lot of harm to them, which boost our OIR to a number we don't want. But thankfully, we only had 6 recordables, so our OIR did not skyrocket to double digits. And we can obviously see that there are a lot of ways for improvement here, but this is what yellow Airlines region shows us within our OIR from our annual OIR of each month. Now that we have looked at our statistics and analyzed our information from our auditing and our graphs, we will now be transitioning and taking a deeper dive into our more severe near misses and our recordables, which we will be giving cost analysis with indirect, direct, and cumulative cost with, and look at why they are so severe and rated so high on our high risk scale. And as you can see, we have some bulldozers moving some rocks here. Now we will be looking at our top 5 near misses, which are in no particular order. Our first one we have is chemical. It was rated 16 points on the high risk scale, severity being a 4 and probability being 4, which is wet ceiling tiles which were found to have asbestos in them. Secondly, we have a lockout tagout near miss where it's 16 points as well, with a severity of 4 and probability of 4, where electricians were replacing a light ballast in a cafeteria with an energized 277 volt circuit. And they were doing this with past accordance practices with no lockout tagout fixes or no PPE being worn, which can be really severe and cause harsh harm to the individual who is working on the light. Third, we have another chemical near miss, which is worth 12 points, with severity being a 4 and probability being a 3, which was maintenance and cleaning products getting wet and the labels coming off of them, and an employee grabbing herbicide and spraying down the main bathroom with herbicide, which is a dangerous chemical that can cause harm to a person. Looking at our other top near misses out of our top 5 near misses, in no particular order, we have continued a falling near miss, which was rated 12 points on the high risk scale, severity being a 4 and probability being a 3. And this is where an employee was on scaffolding in the main terminal building cleaning windows, where he was not tied down good and the scaffolding was not tied down good, and it broke loose, almost dumping the employee out of the scaffolding. And lastly, we have a mobile equipment near miss, which was worth 12 points, severity being 4 and probability being 3, where a driver was looking at their phone while driving when a passenger ran out in front of them, where she almost ran over the passenger. So as we can see, our top 5 near misses are really severe and can cause great harm to each one of the individuals. In just a second, we will be breaking down and taking a deeper dive into each individual near miss. Taking a deeper dive into our top 5 near misses, our first one is the asbestos near miss, which is a chemical worth 16 points. It was scored so high on our high risk scale due to the severity of asbestos, which can cause numerous types of cancers like lung cancer, ovarian cancer, and of course many other types of cancer, which can lead employees or employers to being more susceptible to cancer overall and more diseases. And can this be controlled? Yes. The proper precautions need to be taken to get rid of this asbestos tile, and they also need to have an asbestos inspection to make sure the airport as asbestos free. And it's also important when they replace these tiles that they get tiles that do not have asbestos in them. Our second of the top 5 near misses that we'll be analyzing is our lockout tagout near miss worth 16 points, where electricians were replacing a light ballast on an energized 277 volt circuit in accordance to past approved practices, which needs to be taken note of because this is a big red flag. And it's also important to note that there was no PPE worn when doing this process. It scored so high on our high risk scale due to working with no lockout tagout precautions and also not having any PPE with this such high of a voltage which could kill this electrician. And can this be controlled? Absolutely. The safety staff need to do a better job of allowing employees to do this and overall using lockout tagout procedures to make sure that he does not get electrocuted or cause serious harm to himself or someone else. Our third top near miss analysis is of another chemical near miss worth 12 points, where maintenance and cleaning products got wet, which allowed for the labels to come off of them, and where an employee mistakenly grabbed herbicide thinking it was a cleaner, and she sprayed the main bathroom with herbicide in the terminal. This was scored so high due to herbicide being a really dangerous chemical that is very toxic, and too much exposure can cause health issues like nerve disorders, blood disorders, and lung damage. And can this near miss be controlled? Yes, it indeed can be controlled by simply removing the moisture within the cleaning room and making sure that all labels and proper labels are on each and every single chemical, especially on dangerous chemicals like these. And dangerous chemicals like herbicide should not be kept next to the cleaning products. Near miss of our top 5 near misses that we'll be taking an analysis of is our falling near miss worth 12 points, which is where the employee almost fell off the scaffolding in the main terminal building when cleaning the windows. This near miss was scored so high, not knowing how high the employee was up on the scaffolding, and knowing that he was cleaning windows, that he probably was pretty high, and a height from even just above 6 foot could possibly kill you or cause serious harm to you. And can this be controlled? Absolutely. There needs to be proper training for each employee who works on scaffolding so they understand when an error may be certain so they can stay safer. And inspections on all scaffolding need to be done before they are used. Our next near miss and last top of the top 5 near misses is our mobile equipment near miss, worth 12 points, where the employee was driving while on her phone when a passenger walked on the crosswalk and the employee almost ran over her. This near miss is scored so high due to the severity of the person walking almost getting ran over, which could have caused serious harm or even killed the person walking by, and it could have injured the employee within the vehicle as well, not knowing what type of vehicle she was driving. And can this be controlled? Yes, just like all the other near misses that were so severe, it can be controlled by simply prohibiting cell phone use while working on the working floor or while driving in the vehicles. And the employee should not be on her phone anyway, and she needs to have a meeting about proper driving safeties while working. Now that we have looked at our top 5 near misses and broke them down on why they are so severe and rated so high on our high risk scale, and also giving ways that it could be prevented and if it can be prevented, we will be looking at a root cause analysis where I chose the fishbone analysis of an individual near miss that I also chose. I will be looking at my lockout tagout near miss where the electrician was working on the live light ballast energized of 277 volts with no protective gloves or PPE. Here below is our root cause analysis, our fishbone analysis of the lockout tagout 12-point near miss. As we can start off in our fishbone diagram, we have our personal. This looks at maybe some of the problems that may have been wrong with the employee personally, with our positives being on the right and our negatives being on the left. The employee could have been tired, stressed, or hurting, which could have caused to a lack of attentiveness or stable mindset. And obviously, there's not really any positives on the personal side that he is working on a live voltage with no PPE on. The materials, lack of PPE, obviously, lack of tools, and lack of supervision. Seeing how he has done this in past practices shows the lack of supervision, and therefore again there is no positives. Looking at the measurements, we have height off the ground, the voltage that he is working on, and maybe even the hours that he has worked. He may be really tired and can be susceptible to greater harm or injuries, and there's no positives there whatsoever either. Luckily on the bottom we do have some positives though. When we look in the environmental, we look at the poor lighting, the cluttered work area, and the airborne sounds. This could have caused a lot of ability to not be focused and attentive on his work that he was doing within the near miss. But something that we could take away that is positive is the familiar environment, as we have seen that he has done this in past approved practices, so he does know what he is doing. Some of the methods we look at are the live electricity, the lack of scheduling, and lack of safety guidelines and regulations. Obviously, the methods followed within this near miss are nothing short of a miracle, but they're not a miracle in the right way. They are a miracle in the wrong way. And of course, the following past approved practices, I do have to give him credit. He did follow what he has been told by management earlier and in the past. It may not be the right way, but he is abiding by what the management says. Looking at the machines now in our fishbone diagram, we have inadequate length of wire, no labeling of live conductors, and high voltage, obviously, being 277 volts. And just overall, there's a bunch of negatives on the machine's part. And there's not very many positives that we can take away. But our last positive is correcting the wire length, because he was trying to correct the wire length on the light ballast so it would work better and it could stay safer. But obviously what he was doing was not safe at all, and those are some of the things we can break down from our fishbone diagram and our root cause analysis of our lockout tagout near miss of the electrician replacing the light ballast in the cafeteria. Now that we have broke down all of our near misses and we have looked at a fishbone analysis, it's time to go into our direct, indirect, and our total cost. So here is a chart of our top 5 near misses with their direct cost, their indirect cost, and their total cost. First of all, we have our chemical near miss with the wet ceiling tiles, which could cause cancer. Its direct cost is $67,327. The indirect is $74,059, and the total cost is $141,386. Lockout tagout scored 16 on the HIRA. Employee replacing the 277 volt light with no PPE, and the current is live still. Could be prone to huge electrocutions, so his direct cost is $158,218. Indirect is $174,039, and totally it's $332,257. Our chemical, where the bathroom was cleaned with herbicide, and that could cause respiratory disease, its direct cost was $41,013, indirect being $45,114, and total cost being $86,127. Now we move on to our falling. This is where we have the scaffolding, which is not secure, and the employee is cleaning the windows. This could lead to multiple injuries like broken bones or a concussion, which is why our direct cost is $122,678. Our indirect is $134,945, and our total cost is $257,623. Moving forward to our last near miss that we gave the cost of, our mobile near miss, where the employee is looking at her phone while a passenger walks out in front of her and she almost runs over her, which could also lead to multiple injuries like our falling one, where they could sustain a concussion or broken bones. Our direct cost on this one's actually the same because the injury was placed as the same on the OSHA calculator as multiple injury, as we can both see right here, multiple injury. This was a respiratory disease one on the OSHA calculator. This was electrocution on the OSHA calculator, and this was cancer on the OSHA calculator. So we have the same costs on these two, as we can see right there. And yeah, overall, that's what we have on this one. After looking at the cost on our near misses, our top 5 near misses, it's time to rank them in order of what their total cost was. So the cost that would have cost the most money for the company was our lockout tagout one, where the employee was working on the live current with the light ballast with no PPE, reaching $332,257. Next follows our fall and our mobile one, which had the same type of injuries put in on the OSHA calculator, which makes it $257,623 for both of them. Moving into our third place, we have wet ceiling tiles with asbestos in them, which reaches $141,386, which is still a staggering amount. And of course, lastly, we have our chemical, where herbicide was used to clean the bathroom floors and really all around in the bathroom, which reaches $86,127, which, don't get me wrong, is still no light cost, and it just shows the severity and the lack of safety around this company. Now that we have looked at our near miss cost and we have ranked them, we will now look at all 6 of our recordables we had throughout the annual, of our direct cost, our indirect cost, and of course our total cost, just like we did with the near misses. So I have the names of the employees, but I am not allowed to include the names within our PowerPoint, so we're going by their case number, which is what was put on their OSHA 301 form. So case number 2, punctured right hand. We put this in on the OSHA calculator as a puncture, where his direct cost reached $27,804, his indirect cost reached $30,584, and his total cost reached $58,388. Case number 3 and 4, this is actually considered 2 near misses, and this was a mistake on the OSHA 301 form because they only put it as 1 near miss, but I'm just letting you know I have this one down here as 2 near misses. That's why it says 2 times, because it's 2 recordables. This is 2 recordables because he lost hearing in both of his ears. So case number 3 and 4, hearing loss, both ears, put it in on the OSHA calculator as hearing loss. Direct cost is $45,548, indirect is $50,102, and total cost is $95,650. Case number 5, sprained ankle with the sprain on the OSHA calculator. Goes in with a direct cost of $30,487, indirect being $33,535, and total cost being $64,022. Case number 6, crushing left arm, put it in as a crush, which is huge, and it put it on the OSHA calculator as direct cost $67,003, indirect cost being $73,703, and total cost being $140,706. And it's also important to take note sometimes that indirect costs can be 20 times what just the direct cost would be. And I don't know if we have any that severe, but that just goes to show you how much indirect cost there is. And lastly, we have our case number with the case number 1 with the left hand infection on the OSHA calculator. $31,401 for the direct cost. Indirect cost was $34,541, and total cost was $65,942. We looked at our recordables, total cost, direct cost, and indirect cost. It's time that we rank those total costs. Coming in first place, we have case number 6 with the crushing left arm reaching $140,706. Second place, we have case number 3 and 4 where the hearing loss for both ears was combined to be $95,650. Now, if we do break this down into two different costs, it only reaches about $47,000 or about $46,025. If we go into third place, we have case number 1 with a left hand infection reaching $65,942. Ranked fourth is case number 5 with the sprained ankle with $64,022, which was really close to case number 1. And then in fifth place, we have the case number 2, punctured right hand, $58,388. And I want you to take note that being ranked first, second, and third is not a good thing on this side of the rankings, because this just shows how much more money the company has to pay rather than down here. That's almost a $100,000 difference. Alright, so now that we have done a cost breakdown on our near misses and recordables, it's time that we now look at a cost analysis between recordables and the top near misses, with our near misses that we have right over here and our recordables we got over here. So stay tuned on the next slide. So here's our cost analysis between recordables and top near misses. On our near misses, our cumulative direct total cost on all 5 of our near misses reaches up to $511,914. Our cumulative indirect total cost reaches $563,102. And on all 5 of our top 5 near misses, our cumulative total cost reaches over $1 million. $1,075,016 to be specific. Moving forward to our recordables, our cumulative direct total cost on all 6 recordables reaches $202,243. Our cumulative indirect total cost is $222,465, and our cumulative total cost is $424,708. So as we can see, which it actually is odd to see, is our recordables are actually cheaper than some of our near misses would be. This showing that some of our near misses could have been way more severe than what our recordables that actually happened were. So when analyzing our cost, we can see that the potential costs are significantly higher on the near misses, and this just goes to show the lack of safety around the plant, because there are severe hazards around the plant that can lead to such costly injuries. And both the near misses and recordables are high. Just because these are so high doesn't mean these aren't. These are both still staggering numbers, over 1 million and almost 500,000 here. And as I'm saying, these are both way too high for a company with only 200 people, and it should not be acceptable. And it's also important to take note the difference in cost from near misses and recordables is $650,308 on our cumulative total cost for both near misses and recordables. Well, after breaking down our cost on our indirect, our direct, and our total cost for our near misses and recordables, this brings us to the question, is a safety person needed, and is it reasonable? Well, after analyzing them, it's safe to say that there needs to be a safety person, because almost $500,000 from recordables and potentially over $1 million from just our top 5 near misses. This is really absurd and just shows the magnitude of the unsafe work area. With all the dangerous ones being like this right here just shows the lack of the safety, common sense, and the priorities they have. Where the person was working on the 277 volt outlet or a light baluster that had the live current still with no PPE. And in past practices, management thought that this was justifiable. And this just makes no sense and shows the lack of effort, the lack of common sense that the safety team is having overall. And overall, these costs are significantly high, and they do need a safety person, because it's not reasonable for these costs of the size of the company that we have, and it's not reasonable that electricians are working on live outlets and live currents while working with electricity. We see lots of hazards throughout this company, and it is time that they get a legit safety person, and they need to do it quick so they do not have a horrendous injury that comes to happen to them soon. Alright, so now that we have looked at our indirect, our direct, and our total cost for our near misses and recordables, and given the reason if we thought we needed a safety person and if the costs were reasonable, it's time now that we look at our 10 mistakes I found in our OSHA 300 logs. And this also goes for the OSHA 300 forms and the 301 forms as well. And there were a multitude of mistakes I found within the logs, ranging from the recordable documents and the repeated near misses over and over again. There are a variety of mistakes which just show the lack of the safety program and the lack of effort that was put in. So here are 10 of the mistakes that I noticed. Our first mistake that I found within our OSHA 300 logs is the fact that there is no near misses tallied up in July. As we can see here on my monthly incident tracking, we had 40 near misses and so on, a lot of near misses throughout the annual, but we still had 0 near misses in July, and we wonder why this is. And also over here we can see on our OSHA 300 logs that tallies our near misses, it goes straight to June to August down here. Sorry, it's hard to see, but there is no July of near misses and it does not keep track of them. My belief is that it's impossible, and it clearly shows just the laziness, and they are trying to cover up the near misses overall, which is an error and it is a problem. And it's important to note that there were 2 recordables and 1 first aid in July, so the company was open and not shut down. Correction wise, all the staff needs to be on board and always keep track of every single near miss. My second mistake I found here is the date hired on this employee. On this employee, I do not think this is a possible date that he could have been hired. So when Jacob had his name recorded on the OSHA 301 form, they did not establish the date he was hired. This shows the lack of care the company has for their employees. And correction, employers should always care for employees and record the right information on the OSHA 301 forms, because this paperwork is federal paperwork that is reviewed by OSHA itself, and errors like this just show the lack of effort within the whole company, and that is not a good sight that OSHA wants to see on our airplane company. So looking at our third mistake that we have here, we have it with Jacob Amber again with his hearing loss that he has, and on the OSHA Form 300 it shows that he only had one recordable, which is wrong. He actually had 2 recordables. This picture up here and this picture down here are on 2 different OSHA 301 forms, which shows he has 2 different recordables, one for a hearing loss in his right ear and one for a hearing loss in his left ear. And so obviously only 1 recordable over here and 2 recordables here. And we'll talk deeper about this on the next slide. So on the previous slide, we saw 3 different pictures, and all of those pictures were with Jacob Amber, who has a recordable for hearing loss that was listed on the OSHA 301 form. The error here is Jacob had 2 ears which have significant hearing loss, and it should be 2 different recordables. And on the OSHA 300A form, he was only recorded for 1 hearing loss in an ear. The correction for this is the staff recording the recordables on the OSHA 300A form need to be attentive and understand that Jacob has 2 different hearing loss recordables, 1 for each ear, that needs to be stated on the OSHA 300A form. I found within our OSHA forms, this one actually goes with the hearing loss again, but this is a separate mistake within itself. Back on the OSHA 300 form, we see that another part shows that there's only 1 hearing loss for the guy that had both 2 hearing losses, 1 in each ear. So this should be a 2 here rather than a 1, and this only adds up to 5 recordables actually. And if he had the 2 here, this would add up to 6 recordables, which is actually how much we had throughout the annual. So they messed up their math here, which is another mistake they made on a federal document. And as we see, the error here is failed to mark 2 recordables and lost to add up the right recordables. The correction, the staff needs to be notified of this mistake and they need to be more attentive when recording the OSHA 300A log to put the right amount of recordables on the sheet, because this will be sent to OSHA because it is a federal document and they will see this and it will not be a good sight for them. Fifth mistake we found within our OSHA forms is on the OSHA 301 form versus the OSHA 301 forms. We can see that Libby Day's name, who had a recordable on 6/8/21 within the office, her name changes over to Isabella Molly on 6/8/2021, who also worked in the office. And this just shows here, this is not 2 different people actually. This is the same person because it's the same recordable on the same exact day. And it just shows here that the staff wrongly, again, wrote down the wrong thing, putting Libby Day's name here and Isabella Molly's name here. And this is important to note because it was on the same day and it was the same injury. So it just shows that they did not know who exactly had the recordable, and this is a huge error, especially being sent to OSHA. The correction here is the mistake needs to be fixed immediately, and the employee who suffered from this recordable needs to have their name wrote down on both of these sheets here, so it is the right way. Moving to the second half of the mistakes I found within the OSHA forms and logs, our error here is that on our OSHA 301 forms, the spelling is incorrect throughout and there is not proper grammar at all. And it goes to show the lack of the effort that's being given and the lack of the safety people who are revising this and making sure it's the right way when it's sent off to OSHA, seeing how it is a federal document. As we can see here, prying the esk, I think they meant desk there. There's no periods, there's no capitalization either. Down here they spelled puncture wrong, and they didn't even include all the information here. So the correction here is the OSHA logs and forms need to be peer reviewed and edited, and spelling and grammar needs to be correct, and it needs to all be filled in correctly since this is a federal document going to OSHA. The 7th mistake I found within our OSHA logs, this was actually on our OSHA 300 log with our near misses, as we can see here, this was on one of our near misses. This was actually one of our top 5 near misses actually too. Electricians replacing light ballast in cafeteria worked on energized 277 volt circuits in accordance with past approved practices. There are some huge mistakes we see here obviously that we've talked about throughout the PowerPoint, where they're working on an energized 277 volt circuit, and they're also not wearing any PPE, which it says down here. And the big part here is with past approved practices. The mistake I found here, this is just all an error right here, and this should not be done, especially with the part saying past approved practices, just showing that the safety people there, the supervisors overall, just really don't care how the workers go about their business and just let them do whatever they want. And this is not right because this can cause serious harm. So the correction is there needs to be a safety supervisor on site when a major fix like this is taking place, and all power in this section should be turned off to mitigate the risk of electrocution. And PPE should be worn as well. And also the supervisors who have approved these practices in the past need to be acknowledged about the safety regulations. Moving forward to our next mistake, we can see here on the top left on the OSHA 300 form that the sum of work days missed added up equals 30. But on the OSHA 300A form on this right side, there is no sum listed and the spot is left blank. The correction here is when dealing with important legal documents like OSHA 300 forms, it is vital that all information is filled out on each and every single page. So the sum that is listed here for the days away from work, and it's got an H here that's in parentheses, should be the same sum listed here in the H parentheses with the total number of cases with days away from work. So it's just an error that they did not bring this over and this error needs to be fixed immediately since this is a federal document that's sent to OSHA. To another mistake I found, this is another grammar mistake, but it is important to take note that this is on a different OSHA form as well. This is not the same one I showed you earlier. But just as in the previous one, on the OSHA 301 forms, they do not have proper grammar, and this is unacceptable, seeing how these are important legal documents. As we can see, no periods, no capitalization, not putting the right information that the OSHA form is asking for, and it's just very dry overall as well. And as we can see, that's the error, and the correction is all OSHA forms should be checked precisely and peer reviewed for proper grammar and spelling, and the staff who filled these 301 forms out needs to abide by the proper guidelines on filling out the form. Next that I felt like I should point out on our OSHA 300 forms is this right here. This is on our OSHA 300A form, and none of the information is filled out here. No signatures, no dates, no phone numbers, no anything. No statistics at all. And the error here is that this is unacceptable for the lack of work and the lack of editing that was done within this document, and it just shows the lack and appreciation given on this document and really just overall within the company, seeing how this is an important legal document. And the correction here is the staff members who did not even attempt to fill this out need to be notified, and the meeting needs to be scheduled to show that the staff members have the proper information that they need to include on the OSHA 300A forms, seeing how this is a legal document. This is just unacceptable overall. And I want to also take note that although I only included 10 mistakes within this PowerPoint, there are way more mistakes than just 10 as well. And it just shows to go the lack of effort overall again. So now that we have been auditing and diving into the forms and the near misses and the recordables, the first aids, and the cost analysis of Yellow's airline region, it's now time that we face the question, if I would work for this company. Would I work or buy for Yellow's airline region? Well, after auditing Yellow's airline region, I have decided it is for my best interest not to work or buy for this company. I say this for three main reasons that I have listed below. My first reason being due to the lack of motivation and the established safety program that they do not have, and also the repeated amounts of near misses that they continue to have, and they are not doing anything to abide by the regulations or make sure that these near misses can be prevented. My second reason is because on the OSHA 300 logs, the 300As, the 300s, and the 301 forms, the company staff continues to make grammatical errors, and they do not record the right information within the federal documents or the recordables. There's many typos, and it just shows to go the lack of appreciation and respect, and this is just not possible for this company to have continuous improvement if they keep seeking failure of improvement overall. Alright, so for my third and final major reason I would not work for Yellow's airline regions is truly just due to the fact that the company has way too many severe near misses and severe recordables. And I know me going there or investing in the company, I can help make this safety program better, but I just really don't want to do that, and just really due to the indirect and the direct costs that I've seen throughout the near misses. If you remember, that added up to over $1 million in just our top 5 near misses, and that does not even account for the other 295 near misses that Yellow's airline region had throughout the annual. This surely shows that the company could go bankrupt if they do not keep these near misses under control, and also to go with the recordables being over or almost $500,000, and this just shows some very costly costs that can add up very fast, and that is a lot of the reasons why I do not want to work for this company overall or invest within this company. So with the information I've uncovered and the evidence I've been given, that is what leads to my decision of not buying or working for this company. Transitioning. Now that we have finished auditing our company and understanding some of the mistakes and success of the company, we will now propose a wellness program to implement to Yellow's airline region for them. And healthy is the better way, as you can see down here below. And we have some health charts and, of course, healthy living. All right, so here's our wellness program. My wellness program that I will be implementing into Yellow's airline region is called Soaring to a Better You. Yellow airline region will be focusing on an ongoing program called Soaring to a Better You to help people with weight problems. And according to our Brown LLC chart, population health risk study, 64% of Americans struggle with obesity, which affects their every single day life, which is why we want to implement an obesity program. Obesity is a chronic condition that can contract from childhood to adulthood and can lead to several health issues. Therefore, moving forward, Yellow Airlines region has implemented this program to help employees for our company become healthier and, more importantly, develop a better version of themselves. This program aims not for them to chase someone else's success, but to chase their own shadow and become the best person they can be. And it also aims to help on their health and overall physically and mentally so they can live an everyday healthier life and have more productivity while they are doing so. So, within our wellness program of Soaring to a Better You, you may ask, what are the goals? Well, within our program, we focus on two primary goals, hence the name, Soaring to a Better You. Our first goal that we will be focusing on is encouraging and providing healthy food and snack options for all employees so they can eat healthier, and this will also reduce the number of calories they are digesting. And our second primary goal that we will focus on is providing more exercise for employees and more activity options for them to participate in. So, although I just mentioned our two primary goals of Soaring to a Better You, you still may wondering about the question, what is Soaring to a Better You? As I mentioned, the two primary goals, it's aimed to eat healthier and exercise more within our program, but we also have many other steps to encourage employees to want to join our program so they too can become more healthier. The first step in Soaring to a Better You is having an initial weigh-in and measurement assessment provided by a certified professional trainer during employees' break time, with follow-up weigh-ins which will occur once a month to track individuals' progress. So within our first step, to consume healthier foods and fluids, we will start with providing water for employees every single day at lunch rather than them drinking unhealthy drinks or sodas in the case. We'll also have once a week where we will bring in some healthier food options or snacks so that employees are given the ability to consume foods that will benefit their body and overall enhance their mood and their health as well. Our second step within Soaring to a Better You is to implement exercise sessions with walking and running paths outside our company. To do this, we will have a supervisor for each shift host the group. It states as a fact, nearly 40% of regular exercises participate in group fitness classes. So that's why we will be offering group exercise sessions 3 times a day for each shift to come before or after to get in a little exercise. And adding to this, we will keep tally of the employees who show up to each one of these exercise events because that will be important within our next step. So, what are the rewards? Well, we do have some amazing incentives within our program, so employees will want to join. Starting off with shoes. Losing weight is a major accomplishment, and because of that, we will have some fantastic opportunities to win amazing awards. One of these ways you will be able to win awards will be through an incentive called Souls to Souls. This opportunity will be completed by showing up every single day to our exercise programs throughout the month with our supervisors to get some exercise in. If you so manage to do that, you'll be gifted a free pair of running shoes for your hard work and your determination. So by showing up every single day and consistently getting better and getting your exercise in, you will be able to win a free pair of shoes. And also we have the one PTO day. Employees also have the opportunity to earn 1 PTO day off in a given month for outstanding participation based on measurements and workout day attendance. The top 3 participants each month will be given 1 free PTO day. And we will talk about that furthermore within the next couple of slides. So, there are some amazing incentives within our wellness program, but we have to spread the word if we want people to join. So, to spread the word of Soaring to a Better You wellness program, we will make monthly flyers that advertise our exercise program. And within these flyers, we will include information like healthy tips for meals, exercise examples, and showcase monthly winners with examples of the amazing awards employees can win from our program. We will also utilize the online platform like social media or sending emails to each employee advertising the winners and giving employees specific information if they would like to join. With there being some amazing awards within our program, those awards are costly, so it's important and crucial that we make sure we measure the results right and the right people get the right rewards. So to measure the results, we will take our initial measurements and weights provided by the private trainer, and we will see how much weight or fat each employee has lost each month. All employees' data will be maintained by the trainer, so it remains confidential. In using these measurements, we will calculate who had the healthiest month, and to the top 3 employees who had the healthiest month, they will each get a free PTO day. And the top 3 employees who win each month will also have their names put on the Soaring to a Better You board. This board will have the history of all the winners and be in the front and center of the entrance of our Yellow's Airlines region company. And this board will serve as a reminder of how easy it is to soar to a better you. So, in conclusion, that is my PowerPoint from auditing the company to diving into the deep statistics and all the information within our OSHA forms and logs, and also to implementing a program and deciding if I wanted or was not wanting to work for this company. So if you have any questions at this time, it is now time for you to ask them, and I will reply to them in our discussion board down below. Thank y'all. Guys, thank y'all for tuning in and thank y'all for listening to my presentation and my project overall. There's a lot that we learned from Yellow's airline region, and there's a lot of mistakes they have, but they do have room for a lot of improvement and success within the future. I hope and I wish them the best. Thank y'all.